let's see where you figure on this checklist. How many of you with a social enterprise idea have done any research for what exists in the field? Good. So you know what your competition is? You know what your market could be? Okay. Because sometimes people have a great idea, they haven't tested who's out there that might respond to it in a financial way. So it's not enough to have the idea. Do the next bit on entrepreneurial capacity. That's a checklist. Let's see if those who have the financial tick also have the added value of entrepreneurial capacity within their organisation. All right. Who has a social enterprise already at the stage of a business plan?
Just about.
Just about.
2 weeks away.
Oh, 2 weeks away. You know that, so definitely. So.
We're just about as well.
Nearly? Okay. Okay, good. Good. Who has both business and community people on your boards? Let's just say on your wider boards. Good. Okay. The people on the boards, this is just for my information. Are any of them elected? Or are they all appointed?
Sort of. They're all elected.
Well, they're supposed to be, but it's so funny.
Sort of elected. Sort of elected.
They all elect each other.
At the AGM, you're elected at the AGM. Whether it's a real...
But is it ever an do they?
No.
I was just going to say, is it ever a one or the other person? So it's a ratification. So in fact it's a ratification because they have no competing candidates. So they go up and people go yes.
I think sorry, a lot of people struggle, or organisations struggle.
They do. They do. And why is that?
When you do get someone that's like, please.
So why do you think that happens? I think that's part of it. They're scared about how liable they might be for something that either they don't understand. Time is a huge issue these days. Does that mean that there might be some creative flexibility in organising board meetings differently?
Skype meetings and that sort of stuff. Useful.
Why are we fixed?
Doing them by email.
It's an old paradigm.
It's an old paradigm, and I'm just trying to ask you to think differently about it.
Depending on which board members you attract, they insist on that same paradigm.
That's right. So how do you get board turnover? Some people have limits in their constitution.
Yeah. And it's about ticking boxes around the good governance.
Yes.
It's a full constitution.
How many, does anybody already have more than 50% of turnover from trading in the open marketplace? No. But that's what will make you on the social enterprise of enterprise. Does anybody have? Well, you don't actually have. Oh yeah, let's go. Forget about the social enterprise. Do any of you at the moment have growth plans? I think some of you do, right? Add to that another nod if you not only have the plan but an idea of how you're going to fund it.
Yeah, with the social enterprise.
And what about the last one? How many of you, in funding it, are going to borrow money?
We might.
You might.
Yeah,
Okay.
we might.
And you might. Okay. Well, that's quite encouraging institutional capacity to be translated into a potential social enterprise in this room. So just keep this with you. This is a consultant. This is to drum up business in the UK. But I just thought it was an interesting checklist. So that sometimes you think you're ready and you're not. Sometimes, can any of you zero in on where you have a huge gap? just from looking at that checklist?
Yes, assets, liquidity.
Asset, right?
Yeah.
Good point. Who else has an identified gap that they know that they need to spend some more time on?
Business skills.
Business skills for a standalone social enterprise.
And the structural, actually becoming a social enterprise separately to the organisation.
Now this is something we were starting to talk about. What will it take to get some of the big organisations represented here to give permission to their little creative fledgling social enterprises to be standalone entities? Do you think that
Can be done for sure.
can you persuade them to do that? Well done. Good. Can we have a reunion in a year's time and check in on this? When I taught at the School for Social Entrepreneurs, the strapline was high-minded and hard-headed. Clear majority of outside of organisational social entrepreneurs, the do-it-alone ones, have a high concentration of high-mindedness and a very low presence of hard-headedness. But I think what's interesting about looking at you within organisations, you probably have a greater chance of doing it more successfully because of the institutional capacity that actually surrounds you, and that's helped nurture you to this stage. And I think that's quite positive, really, quite positive. But you might be inclined to underestimate competition in the field. Because in this sector, as I said earlier, it's a good idea, it will work.
One of the things we don't have is, because we're so small and relatively young, we're only 4 years old, is any of that institutional backup, any assets or you know, any of that kind of stuff. So where we've gone with this, and this is from personal experience from living on carer payment for 17 years and running small businesses along the way, and having no capital to start a small business. So is internet-based businesses. So they're low capital startup, low risk, and low. And we can actually use the space we've got at the moment if we pick the right product. And you know, I picked a really good product that was just a niche product, and I've got it now. I've got an eye for what a niche product is, and I can watch on the internet what kind of suppliers there are. I know how to access the suppliers, to how to import product from overseas, which is a bit of a worry around the tax thing. So instead of seeing, okay, we can't have assets, we've got nothing to borrow against, we've got very little.
So you've got virtual assets though.
Yeah,
what I mean is,
you're
bypassing it. Yeah,
that's right.
You're bypassing some of
so
that
where our
capital
weakness
infrastructure need.
Yeah, and as you, I mean, all you need to do is get, you know, 6 months or 12 months of decent turnover, and then you can start looking at borrowing from, you know, foresters or whoever they are.
That's really where I'm going to leave your capacity for social enterprise building. Just see where you fit in the squares as you make your progress, and just keep developing the areas of weakness so that you will be capacity ready at some stage, and very good luck with it. Now, most of you would have a presence in your own area, wouldn't you? Yeah. So you should think about out of the box, you should think out of the square about a design of something that maybe would be of use to a local council. They are an employer. And you can probably, I don't know, would you ever look at doing, are your clients ever, do you have clients that could do anything like motorised street sweeping, or?
We have no limit on, you know, our client group can be any.
Well, see, you could think about something like this. It doesn't just have to be the creative part, which I know you identify
It's
with.
interesting, the guy who is general manager of City Works here, which is the maintenance and arm of the City Council, did that course I was just mentioning with me, and he desperately wanted and employs people, homeless people, but
Yeah.
but it's just this kind of thing that he does. He's desperate for some kind of project like this where people have got expertise in the training and the support services and all of that sort of stuff to engage them in some way in the Brisbane City Council City Works, which is a massive business. So
Who was
he's
that?
right there waiting for,
Who was that?
His name's Richard Matthews.
Yeah, I know that. But Brisbane City Council is the next example because we're...
Oh, right. Sorry, is he in the book?
No, he's not. It was mainly Rogan Hume, who's gone now. But in fact, Brisbane, you probably don't know it, but they've been pioneering this.
Yeah, they have.
They've been pioneering this for years and years and years. And the story of how they do it is really interesting. Because they have to do it, legally. They have to make sure that nobody can challenge the outcome of the tender process and cause them all kinds of grief. So if we go to page 12, they did some fledgling stuff and they thought it worked really well and they wanted to extend that across their organisation. So they set up a social procurement working group and they brought in members from procurement and asset services departments and from community services. That's important because procurement can't just be quarantined to procurement people. That's the problem. That's the problem in big corporations as well. So they did that, but then they developed a really bona fide, strong social procurement policy. Now at the time, nobody else in the country was talking about social procurement, environmental procurement maybe, but not social procurement. So they looked at a public interest exemption framework within the council's existing procurement policy. And that gave them the opportunity to work with social enterprises, and that's what they needed. And social enterprises don't have a lot of clients where they can have this kind of ongoing income stream. And because if they have to compete on the open marketplace under competitive neutrality, particularly in the early days, they get knocked out. So this was a really proactive way of making sure that social enterprises could tender, not be awarded automatically out of the goodness of your heart, but that they could tender. So the Nunda Co-op is one of the really early Brisbane City Council partnerships. And they do lawns and maintenance as well as the catering, park maintenance. And look how long that's lasted. And I know in this book that Murray O'Connor and others, Dave, have said that without the initial partnership and the security of income that came from the Brisbane City Council contracts, they would never have been able to grow and endure as they have. And they're a really positive presence. Okay, so unlike other methods where people sit in offices and count beans, in this one you really have to go to the people who are involved and affected by the project, whether they are the end user or whether they're the board of trustees, whether they're the workers, whatever. You have to have a very high priority for involving stakeholders at the heart of the process. Because you have to understand what changes, you have to know where they are at the beginning. So you have to capture descriptions that can be notes, they don't have to necessarily be numbers, but you have to have some way of saying, this is how this person came to us, this is where this person was in 6 months as a result of coming to this program, and this is what's essentially changed for them in that time. But you can't make it up, you've got to talk to them. There's lots of interaction involved in an SROI. So they're valuing principles, so that's the first 5. And the second are reporting principles. So be transparent and verify the result. Well, you would do that. anyway. Okay, well, one of the problems that you should grapple with around starting up a social enterprise is don't just gather around you good friends. A lot of people have done that because they just think that if they can help me in these early times and maybe give me a little bit of startup money as well, they can be on my board. It doesn't work out properly long run. You don't get the blend of expertise that you need. You don't get the rigour that you need. Friends are afraid to offend unless they're really long time with a very strong relationship. So don't make the mistake of taking the easy way out at the beginning of just getting around you people that won't cause trouble. On the other hand, don't go and look for people that will cause trouble. Just look for a blend of expertise.